Hey gang, happy Halloween. Monday, October 31st. I plan to, in about 3 or 4 minutes, as soon as I've done this video, start processing everyone's mark updates. This time it'll come in a more of an official form than just an email from me. The powers that be still haven't found the technical issue preventing from the software from emailing the information out, but I found a workaround in it, so I should be able to get those out today, barring catastrophe here at RDHS. I just want to go over a little bit of Unit 2, Assignment 3, the Sexual Sterilization Act of Alberta. I've been getting some pretty good responses, some pretty thorough answers, very well done and documented. But for the most part, I find it interesting, and this isn't wrong or even right, it's just your answers. I found it interesting that the majority of you don't believe the taxpayers should compensate the people affected by that act. That just was very surprising. There was one or two, but most people said absolutely not. They were not around for it, therefore they don't and shouldn't be paying for another government's mistake. The problem with that is who's going to do it? All right, so any government money that gets used is going to be taxpayer money. So are we going to become, and I said this to one of the students already just as a way to get them to think, does that mean, if we take that approach, could we also say that if you weren't around when the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was enacted, you don't get to benefit from it either? All right, so if you weren't born before 1982, then you are not entitled to use the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Or after 1982, you're not entitled to it because you weren't there when the government made the decision to enact it. So I think it's one of the things we need to think about in this situation is, do we, as a society, are we going to just accept our accolades as a culture? We're just going to embrace the fact that we're a great hockey nation, that we're really good at being polite and nice, that we make a really good poutine, but we're going to shun the stuff that we didn't do really well. We're going to ignore it because, hey, it wasn't me, I wasn't around, I didn't do it. I think that's something we have to be careful of. You might have heard the expression standing on the shoulders of giants. If we're going to stand on the shoulders of our forefathers and say, hey, look at our country, we are a great culture, I think we also have to look at the aspects of our culture that aren't so great. You don't get to the level of, you don't get to the depth of culture that Canada has without doing some things that were pretty questionable. And those questionable things change from time to time. So when you get to be my age, in a few decades, what will happen when you look back and see what current governments did, what past governments did, and at the time was acceptable, but when you look back in retrospect and you realize that it wasn't. All right, so cultures change. So it's just something to think about. And I'm not saying that your answers are wrong if you don't choose to compensate these people or that you don't believe in that. I'm just saying I think you need to look at the bigger picture. You need to look at, the opposing viewpoint. If you don't agree with it, even if you don't agree with it, you should at least try to understand it. Okay? Have a great Halloween and be safe out there.